But anyway, thanks for the time today.
You. Yeah.
I feel like there's so many kind of interesting topics. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I know I got at least one loan from you at some point, probably multiple. And obviously we spent some time at U of I together too. We won't touch on those stories. We're old men now.
Yeah. Another day, another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Probably a whole series. But today, and I think the Echo probably showcases it, we're sitting in the Ramova Theatre. So in, an awesome community in Bridgeport or in Chicago, just kind of all the cool, fun, cultural, exciting things. And so I appreciate you extending the time today. I know you've got kind of almost a handful of jobs. So we met each other through lending, and now we're in Ramova.
That's right.
Maybe we kind of start how you are in lending and landed in Ramova.
Yeah, that's a good story. Well, thanks, Ted, for having me here. It's been an awesome journey, with many things in life, right? I mean, I think it's like, I didn't go to school when we knew each other and said, hey, I want to be a mortgage loan officer at the beginning, right? I ended up as a mortgage loan officer, and I had a great career, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping people. But sometime around like 2016, I was looking at kind of like the community, the Latino community, and I was starting to like look at other parts of the country, and I started realizing that there was a gap in how most lenders lend to multicultural communities. And what I mean by that is lack of technology in language, lack of resources, lack of marketing, lack of product. It's almost like a lot of the industry was looking at multicultural communities and being like, hey, you have no choice. We're going to give you this product. This is what we have. Deal with it. And they're not really understanding the big business opportunity that there is from providing a top quality product in user friendliness, with technology, with resources, with all the things. So sometime around 2017, 2018, as my career was going, I was like, hey, you know what? I want to make an impact. I want to help the industry move forward. I think if I move from sales role to an executive role and help one of the top lenders really become that number one brand for multicultural markets, that I can make a big impact, not just in the hundreds of families that I was helping yearly, but now tens of thousands of families. Because when I was a loan originator and helping people like you buy a home, I was maybe helping 200 to 300 families a year if I was doing a really good job, and typically that's at the top of the industry. And that was great.
Great job.
Yeah. And that's great. That was great. But being in the role where I can help tens of thousands of families every year, and then move the industry and help hundreds of thousands of families was really attractive in that point in my career, right? So I, right around 2019, I took a role with Guaranteed Rate at that time, now Rate.
Yeah. I missed when that happened too, by the way.
It was about, that happened about a little bit over a year ago when we became Rate. And that was, a journey of going just from mortgages to a fintech company. Because now we offer personal loans, insurance, home equity lines of credit, not just mortgages.
Got it.
And so, at that time, I talked to Victor, a great guy, and Nick Athanacio, the COO, and we talked about, okay, how do I come over to the company and not just take on like a, BS DEI role, right? Like a lot of times companies are like, oh, we got a token Latino guy, he's, this is, now we're here to service diverse communities, but it's not really, there's no real, resources or cost center or
checking a box.
Correct. No strategy. Like you're not really building anything, right? So I was very strategic as to like, okay, we're going to come in and we're going to build infrastructure. We're going to build customer service. We're going to build technology. We're going to add on program. I want to lead that. I think it's going to be great. It's going to help us drive growth. So as of 2020, I took on the role of executive director of multicultural growth for all of Rate companies. It's been a great, awesome journey in implementing that strategy now and leading the company.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like a migration of, I won't tell today when I was in banking, it's from working in the business to working on the business.
Yeah.
And then also, and what I think is really cool about that too, is you also have perspective of, ultimately at the end of the day, somebody's doing the job that you were doing.
Yeah.
Right. But coming from a place of doing that, I always think, when leaders were on the ground floor at some time, there's a little bit better connectivity, with the folks that are doing it. And I think it
Yeah,
means a lot.
I call it like I went from like being on the field to like front office
Yeah.
or back office, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're like, no, and it's interesting you say that because that was one of the things like with the Latino community. I mean, there is sometimes in this environment, political environment, people get like a little bit like, like they're walking on eggshells because talking about, multicultural strategies or DEI. And
Mhm.
I think it's one of the big mistakes companies make.
Yeah.
Multicultural markets, this is business. This is about looking at the landscape, whether it's the Ramova Theatre in the south side of Chicago or, Rate as a national company. You're looking at the data. You're looking at there are 16 million Latinos in this country, and they are the driving factor of housing growth right now.
Really?
So, yeah, like here are the two data points that are crazy. Today, what percentage of first-time home buyers do you think are minorities?
I would have no clue.
50%.
Okay.
Today already. 50% of first-time home buyers are minorities. And that's from the National Association of Realtors, right? So
Yep.
that's Hispanic, majority, Black, and Asian, right? 50% of the market of first-time home buyers are minorities today. And then the Urban Institute predicts that 70% of home ownership growth over the next 20 years, 70% of net home ownership growth will come from the Latino community. And so, how are you a national company without a strategy to service
Yeah.
that big ass market,
Yeah.
right?
At bare minimum, 50% of the market,
Yeah.
much less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a company and you're like, oh, we don't, it's like, and you get caught up in the noise of like a DEI thing. This isn't about that. This is about, okay, you have a market. How do you reach the consumer better? Well, let's build technology and language, right? Because of those 60 million, 84% are bilingual. So, and then there's a huge, like 30 million are Spanish language dominant, meaning that they prefer to speak in Spanish. So you're talking about 30 million people, and there's no company out there until we came in that was like, hey, we're going to provide the whole process end to end in Spanish, invest in the technology and the rate applications, all that. So that gave us a huge competitive advantage. We've
Wow.
seen tremendous growth in the initiatives. So that's what I came on to do because I was a loan officer, like you said,
Yep.
and I knew the gap. I didn't have like a background in like marketing or anything. I just been
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm a loan officer. I'm dealing with my customers. There's no one doing this. Like, why aren't we doing it?
That's incredible. I've spent some time in banking, and then I obviously do a lot in terms of design and everything else. And so many times I will see, in a positive way, a company making their website multilingual,
Yeah.
right, or something like that. But then when you get into the technology and the processing, you log in,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't always, and from my understanding and my experience, sometimes the technology isn't flexible enough to do that. So that's a large investment
Yeah.
to do that.
But
Usually that's
the
ridiculous.
devil's in the details, like, right? So
Yeah.
you're totally right. A lot of companies will say, okay, well, we want to appease some of this market, right? So they'll
Right.
take a web page and they'll Google Translate. And it's like,
Yeah.
look, that doesn't really, literal translations don't
Right.
communicate, right? So people get lost. And when you're providing a service, you're totally right. Like when somebody applies, if maybe the front end of the application is in Spanish,
Yep.
but at the moment they apply and the loan gets sent to their processor, everything goes back to English.
Yep.
That customer is like, what the hell, what's going on? Like, I'm lost. Like the user. So we had to sit down and like, the whole user experience,
Yeah.
think about the technology, invest in the disclosures. It was really groundbreaking. So that was one of the major projects I worked on right when I first started to provide the country's first and still only end-to-end process in our
Really?
industry, 100% in Spanish. Yeah.
That's impressive. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Podcast over.
Yeah. Mic drop. Boom.
Yeah.
No, it was, and the thing is, like, when you invest in these type of things for companies, the results are amazing. Like we had I talk about why I took this role because I wanted to help more diverse communities get access to credit,
Yep.
improve access to credit, and make their experience better, right? And so, you think about like in our industry, in the lending industry, the people that are lending, it's a network thing.
Yep.
You're lending to your network, right? So, you're lending to your network. And a lot of times, if your network is affluent, you're lending to affluent people. If your network is white, you're going to lend to your white community. Like that's totally fine. Like it's a network thing. But as a company, if the people that are lending, there's a lack of diversity there,
Yeah.
it impacts the customers that you're servicing, right? So we came in with a strategy to build this infrastructure to then attract more Latino originators to come to the company
Makes perfect sense.
and improve the lending. So we have grown between the Hispanic, African American, and Asian initiatives that we put in place. The funded volume at the company has gone from about it was like a 16% in diverse communities to 34% of the
Right.
book of business at the company.
So more than double.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, more than
Yeah,
double.
32%. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy growth. You know, we're very excited. You know, and like we're in a position now where we're looking to pivot into the marketing phase of it because
Yep.
we've built infrastructure, and now we're like, okay, let's get the word out with marketing. So I don't have a marketing degree. I'm a sales guy. I talk well, but I by de facto, I'm like leading our multicultural marketing initiatives and our go-to-market strategy, and I've been working on our industry's first digital television and radio go-to-market strategy, and
Wow.
like 25 MSAs for the Latino market, 25 for the African American market, and it's been great journey.
That's awesome. And I think it's an important perspective too, because we talk about, so let's rewind. What you're also doing is impacting community to own a home.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
How you build wealth.
At scale, right? Yeah, stats all over the place in terms of that's exactly how you build wealth. But I also think it's interesting that it's a business opportunity at the same time. And I talk to foundations, I talk to for-profits, I talk to everything. I think when you're able to do business in a way that is also making a positive impact in the community, it's kind of a win-win.
Oh yeah. But it's great. Like you want to grow for good, but there is no mission without the margin.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I like that. I gotta borrow that one.
Yeah. You want to grow for good, but we got to make money. It's got to be a money making thing. So that's one of the reasons why I got the job and why it's still at the job is because it wasn't an approach about let's do charity here. Like it's really looking at these markets and saying, hey, we can, putting infrastructure in place, investing in all of these things, putting all these millions of dollars. It's to do good business and tackle and grow because there's a lot of economic power in these communities. And so sometimes in the mortgage industry and the real estate industry, let's just call it what there is. There is a big wealth gap in, and so a lot of the people that are making decisions and lenders and banking institutions, they're just older. They come from it's a different time, and they're not necessarily connecting the dots of what the opportunity is right now. The mainstream economy today in our country and the drive in mortgages and real estate is very, very multicultural.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And that stat I could have guessed, but I didn't know the 50%. And by the way you presented that, presumably it was not 50% at one day. So that shows.
Yeah. No, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of growth in that space, and I think there's also like where some people might see the kind of like something that they don't want in business. It's finding like the positive in that and being like, okay, there's actually something where we want to invest. So I think sometimes lenders will look at whether it's Latino or African American communities and they'll say, well, that's like low loan amounts and that's like first time down payment and that's credit repair and we're not going to make money on that and let's not do that, right? And that's kind of the mentality that came from redlining. But what we're demonstrating is that there is profitability in these markets and it's good investment. And so we're in a time where even though right now in the economic and like political landscape, people are like walking on eggshells, we're like, no, we're all in. We're investing more money. We're like, putting down more money. We're like, you guys want to move back? Great, more for us.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And something you said there too, like you're proving it out. Not that you're looking to create competition, but by kind of trailblazing and proving the efficacy of this approach, I think it will turn other lenders into taking the approach. And ultimately, when you talked about 200 a year, 1,000 people a year, 200,000 people a year.
Yeah.
When you think about impact, even if competitors start kind of doing similar things, at the end of the day, being the lead dog on that, number one.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real cultural shift, right?
Yeah.
That you guys are kind of spearheading.
I think it's like, as a leader, there is obviously a very big component of competition, but there's also a component of collaboration. Yeah. And so when, I sit in this role. I have counterparts in other major industries and other major lenders and competitors, or even in the real estate side, and we have organizations that we belong to that we, come together and kind of collaborate a little bit about, hey, you're doing this, we're doing that. And I like to share what we're doing, because to me, if they start doing it, it pushes the industry forward.
Yeah.
So when we were the first one to bring in the end-to-end application in Spanish, the whole process, there was a lot of companies, because of compliance, were saying that was impossible. So I sat down with my partner and my colleague who also helped me on this, Arlene Kalinsky. We sat down and we had conversations with competitors about, this is how we got around the compliance. Like, you guys, we didn't tell them every single detail, but I was like, this is how we can get this done. You can get this done. And then we started seeing other companies like put together some components of it. They still didn't go all the way like we've done, like in the user-friendly component, but at least they're starting to follow suit. And so we're like, okay, great.
That's awesome. Now, like, you don't see that a lot. Like you said, actually, I should say you do. Like my industry a lot. I've got a couple folks that we are almost direct competitors, and we meet every month. And talk about stuff. And every time I learn a little tweak from them, they learn a little tweak from me, maybe. And I think it also just kind of builds some nice camaraderie in the community. But I don't see that in banking that often. So that's impressive. What motivated some of those initial conversations?
Well, I mean, I think it's the nature of, when it comes to improving access to credit for underserved communities, there are people that gravitate to that mission. And so they might be wearing a different jersey that day for the company that they work for, but we are both working for the same goal of increasing access to credit for underserved communities. So we have that like connection. And so, what's that saying? Raising tide,
Rises all tides.
It's raises all sinking ships, right?
Go,
something like that, right? You can tell, but it's just kind of like the collaboration of, okay, we can help each other out. I look at market share, and with our when we started our initiatives, we were at 0.6% of the market share as a company in multicultural. Let's talk about the Latino space, but it's almost similar to in the African American space. And now we're at like a 2.5% of the market share. It's tremendous growth. We're super happy. We're seeing everything. Do we have 10%, 20%? No, there's plenty of pie for other players to come up. And, and so it's like we all win by helping each other out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and if we were to rewind the reels, you started your journey by saying, I want to make an impact, and there's an underserved community here. You didn't start it by saying, and I want to crush and win and dominate the market. And then, but I think, again, I really want to underscore this, that there is a business being run here. And the fact that that you're working with others, and all tides rise, rising tides rise.
We're going to get it. We're going to get it. We're going to get it.
Sing and ships. But I mean, it gets back into the kind of authenticity. In fact, I like the way you said it. We're all might be wearing different jerseys, but we're for the same mission.
Exactly.
That's a very cool way. And again, I said it previously, but you don't always see that in the lending.
Yeah, I think of it like, and I think you've seen it like, recently with like, I know he's gone in my mind, he's gotten some negative slack very recently. Elon Musk, for example.
Sure.
Recently, but there was the I don't know if this was true, but I heard a rumor maybe that he gave out the blueprint to his battery, his EV battery, and he shared it with his competitors so they would catch up and push the industry forward.
Interesting.
So he didn't patent it, and so it was something like that, you know. And so it's like, and there's other instances of people like being like, hey, we built something, it's great. Go ahead, let's freaking move the industry forward. And it's kind of like, I think at the end of the day, at Rate, we are super proud of our technology. We think we're light years ahead of our competition, because we are, honestly. And so, for us, it's like, let's keep pushing forward. Just recently, we rolled out our Rate application about a year ago, so you can do the whole mortgage application on your phone and communicate with us. And that is now also in Spanish. Like,
really?
Yeah, and our competition is nowhere near.
I mean, that is, again, I've built apps for banking. I've built websites for banking. That is that's an investment
Yeah.
to get that done.
Yeah.
That's not just let's do a save as and change some language around.
Yeah.
Particularly with the compliance and everything else. So
Right.
like I've been marching in those alleys before.
Yeah. So I mean, we have yeah, it's like, but it's also building a business case internally to, like, you have to have milestones to demonstrate, okay, this makes sense, right? So we first hired bilingual loan officers and then processors, and we started seeing the customers really gravitating to that. And then it was like, okay, let's build the technology for the application on the front end through your laptop, right?
Yep.
And then we started seeing, like, okay, that's getting a lot of utility. All right, well, let's build the disclosures now. Okay, boom. Yeah, people are loving it. Okay, great. Boom, let's go all the way. Let's do it.
Yep.
And now we're in this.
That makes perfect sense. And I've also seen, I might have talked about this a little bit, but I'm in a business of user experience, right? So it's we've got an interface, or basically somebody getting from point A to point B and ultimately to some sort of a conversion, right? In your case, it's getting to the website, filling out a loan application, going through that process. And what I've seen is sometimes an organization will dip a little bit into that. And so they feel really good about themselves. Hey, we have a multilingual website, or the application is. But then as soon as and so you're giving a positive experience, right, to that individual. This is speaking to me. But if it drops off anywhere, it's actually even worse than if the whole thing was in English.
Correct.
Because then it feels like we kind of half-assed this, brought you in. This is for you. By the way, it's not for you, right? So that's fascinating.
It's funny you say that, because the slogan we took at Rate when we built out all the technology in Spanish was "Contigo 100%," meaning we're with you 100% of the way, all in. Just because of that, it was just to differentiate. We weren't doing this half-ass. We're gonna go build a whole user experience. That's kind of where we're at.
It's awesome. With you always 100. Is that the direct?
Contigo, yeah.
I worked in Mexico City for a while. I still don't speak anything. I would learn cerveza, and everyone was impressed with me. Very cool. Okay, so that's a great story. I'm not sure if it will come up on the microphones. We're hearing some sound checking going on.
Yeah.
So from totally transforming an aspect of lending and getting the systems and being, kind of the leader there, we're sitting in Ramova.
Yes.
And talking about making an impact on the community.
Yes.
How did you get here?
It's a great question. So when I was lending, I started investing in real estate. Buying a couple of multi-unit buildings, fixing them up, hanging on to them, and got into a little bit of investing. So the idea of doing some sophisticated investment vehicles started to come in play, and basically that's just a word for a private equity group, right? That you can stand up the infrastructure, you put together like the vehicle for the property management, you put together the vehicle for the fund structure, and to raise money between a group of friends, and then boom, you got a private equity group. You got the infrastructure.
Yep.
And so I was in the process of building that out because I wanted to gather funds from my network and do bigger projects in underserved communities. So one of the things I had realized from almost that point 16, 17 years in the lending industry is that the challenges in our country, well, there are many challenges in our country,
right.
but as it pertains to the real estate world and the lending world, they come around accessibility to home ownership, and that's credit and capital, right? So credit is a part of that story. That's what I do in my day job. I'm in the lending business, improving access to credit. But with the private equity group, I could start accessing, resolving the capital challenge. So bringing capital to parts of the city or other parts of the country where there's not a lot of investment, but there's a lot of opportunity, and the margins are higher, and you can really make an impact and change, whether it's a residential project or a commercial project. So a lot of that was like really attracted to me because I was like, hey, I mean, I can have a career in lending, and then I can help with the capital side of things. And I think right around, I was in the process of just getting that vehicle kind of buttoned up around 2018, And one of our friends from college, Tyler, who you just met downstairs,
Yep.
Tyler Nevis, founding partner of the Ramova, came up and said, "Hey, I am in New York. I have this amazing concept. I want to move back to the city of Chicago to get it going. I have some key partners in place, not all of them, but some key partners at that time. And I would love to work with somebody that can help me raise capital from from the city of Chicago." And so the vision was to not like go immediately to like a joint venture group and like bring in like one single high net worth investor. And it was to go to the community, find like successful folks that are tied to the community, that either love music or love the south side of Chicago or love Chicago in general, and wanted to invest in something that was going to make a huge impact to the south side. And so that's how like that started to come through. Tyler came to me in 2019, and we started kind of working on that. I started talking to my network right around 2019 about this project.
Yep.
And then we ended up closing in September of 2021.
Awesome.
2021. And, at the end of the day, what we were able to accomplish was we got about 50 investors helping us raise a little bit over 5 million.
Okay.
And that was a very unconventional route to raising money.
Sure.
Typically, you're going to 4 or 5 high net worth individuals.
Exactly.
We went to a network of affluent people that had enough money, but it said, "Hey, instead of investing that money in the stock market, why don't you come invest in this awesome project, be a part of something, change the community? This is going to be a concept where, I guess I should explain what the Ramova is. Because maybe I think maybe I did explain to everybody what the Ramova is. So the Ramova Theatre, that's funny. So the Ramova Theatre is a concept where there was on 35th and Halsted in the south side of Chicago, there was a movie theater that was put in place in the 1920s, 1929. And it stood open for all the way through 1985, where it shut down doors. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it was a big thing in the community here for a long time, all the way through 1985. A lot of people have a lot of local ties to this. They grew up around here. They came to watch movies. And right around 1985, it closed down, and then it went through a period that it was vacant and it was falling apart. And there was a lot of people from the community that were, asked the city to please do something with this, please do something with this. So Tyler was scoping out a location for his idea of a music venue with a brewery partner. And so that's where, he contacted some people locally. Yeah, there you go. Cheers. And cheers to Other Half Ramova, who is our brewery partner. For those that know about beer, Other Half is well known as a worldwide top class microbrewery. They are, the top of the top. And we were extremely happy to have them come here and be a part of the project. It's honestly, when I was raising cash, Other Half, the name, was a big reason a lot of the investors came in, because they're Northeast operations out of Brooklyn.
So they had to tie in.
Yeah. So they basically, the Other Half story is they're out of the Northeast, out of Brooklyn, and they've grown, 2 locations out there, and they're very well known for hazy IPA.
Yep.
And that's kind of like their beer that they started with. They do all sorts of beers now, and they have really cool art, and it's really the beer is amazing. But Tyler knew them from his time in New York, and he wanted to do something with them, but they weren't a lock-in when he was putting all this together. That was like his ideal beer partner.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. And so when we came in here and started putting all the pieces together, and they started seeing how this reminded him so much of like what happened in Brooklyn, and that's why they're called Other Half. And it was like between like Manhattan and Brooklyn, and it's like they started seeing like, oh, the south side of Chicago is on the come up. We could be a part of this. They started hearing about partnerships with Chance the Rapper. Quincy Jones is rest in peace. His estate is now a partner of ours, but Jennifer Hudson. So they started seeing like there was something really unique and authentic here.
Yep.
And when the investorship group came in, and it's like, hey, it's people from here, people that care about this place, that want to see it succeed. They were like, okay, we're in. And then we closed, and I wish I could say that. And then it was happily ever after.
Right.
But anyone that's done construction will know that that's not how it went. It was a process of
You had the baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now you gotta all the other stuff.
Yeah, so then it was a part of the construction piece, and that was a fun journey as well. I mean, we had like what was it like 2021 to 2023, end of 23, a 2 year development phase.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so but it took longer than we thought. It cost more money than we thought, but we got it open.
Sounds like a construction project.
Yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, we opened doors in at the end of 2023, and after our first year, rough year in 2024, figuring out the right parts of the booking, the marketing, the staff. Since October of 2024, it's been like we're starting to kick off here. We're starting to sell out shows on a weekly basis. It's really starting to, I think the calendar for the rest of the year is already booked up.
I noticed that.
Yeah, and so it's now, there's still a lot of fine tuning, things like that. But
Sure.
the most beautiful thing I've seen is the community come here, enjoy the place, families, all types of music. We've had everything from country to EDM to hip hop acts, to really see it come to life and see the impact it has, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it really is cool. And I was looking at the calendar of events the other day. I think when we were talking about doing it here, and it is across the board
Yeah.
in terms of the different types of music, which I think is really cool because you think about we're getting a lot of music venues around here, and there's a destination aspect to it as well. But then there's also communities that are closer to certain ones. And so I think by bringing in the different acts, you're getting more exposure to different types of culture, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I love all parts of Chicago, but I got to talk about a little bit about the South Side and why we're excited that the project is here. I mean, you got the Chinatown, you have Bronzeville, you have Pilsen, you have Canaryville. This is a very diverse kind of area of Chicago.
Yep.
And even though the North Side is great, obviously you got amazing investment and awesome projects that people always focus on the North Side. And what I mean by that is tourism, right? They always focus on the North Side, but real Chicago, generational Chicago, people that have been living in Chicago for like generations, it's in the South Side, right? Like in the North Side is where I live, where it's been like people that go to college and then they go to the burbs, or then we they move back to like Michigan or Ohio, right? And it's like there's a lot more of that in the North Side, which is fine.
Right.
But in the South Side, it's like you're coming here and they're like, oh yeah, I've been here for 5 generations, and you're like, oh snap, like this is to me, like it's not talked about enough, and so I love to see more people come out here because of that.
Well, and I think stuff like this, because having a venue like this in a location like this gets people like that coming out here.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, even just driving in, like I've been in this area before, several, Chicagoan. It's completely different since the last time I was here, and that was only a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Probably for 2018. Sounds like all your moves were in 2018.
Yeah.
So Camilo transformed it. So what I also find interesting too is we've seen is like kind of a surgence of venues going on in Chicago. I think the geography of it is an awesome part of the story, and I absolutely see what's unique about what's going on here from that perspective. The brewery is an interesting component.
Yeah.
And I know there's a beer garden opening as well. And I'm not trying to make a commercial here, but strategically, do people come here just for the brewery? Is the brewery how much of the pie is that in the action?
So we want more people to come out here because of the brewery. And right now, people are coming because of the shows. 2,000 people, sell-out show like we have tonight.
Yeah.
And
2,000 people.
2,000 people, for the venue. And we're gonna, we'll have them come in, and it's mainly younger folks that are coming in and they're drinking, but they don't know as much about beer yet, right?
Yeah.
So, and to be honest, the younger crowds are drinking less.
Right.
Than our generation back at
U
right?
Looking at us and what we're turning into.
Yeah. So
I want to keep my hair.
But I think that the people that know about beer and they know about the Ramova right now, and we're going to get into a phase where we're going to start, getting the beer out a little bit more, and so I think we're going to see even more and more people come to the Ramova other half and taste the beer and come here just for that.
Yeah.
There's certainly some of that going on, but I think it's like we definitely have focused on the venue component first, and now it's time to shine a spotlight on this amazing brewery we got going on here.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a smart order too, because there's always a chicken and the egg when you've got multiple offerings within a business, and it'd be pretty awkward to build up the brewery and say, at some point we're going to have shows here.
Yeah.
This big, massive structure. So
that was a conversation above my pay grade. that was between the partner, Tyler, and other half, and kind of like deciding how do we do that, right? And in my role, I was the private equity. So I one of the things I think that are important in partnership when you're doing things is stay in your lane. Like I'm not in here being like, hey, this beer doesn't taste right. Like it's like, I'm not going in there. I'm not like, what's going to, like let your partners do what they're supposed to do, right? So my role was big 2019 to 2021, right? That's when I was, now I'm on the board and I, definitely chime in and give opinions and all that. But at this point, we have really talented people making the beer. We have really talented people, booking the shows. And Tyler's here day in and day out with Emily, his partner, an amazing woman. They're just bringing this whole thing together and navigating all the day in and day out components. And it's been incredible seeing them all work together to get us to where we're at right now at Ramova.
That's awesome. Two stories that come out, because I talk with entrepreneurs, I talk with business owners, I talk with people kind of across the board. And two themes that tend to come out of those conversations, whether it's part of the podcast or with the client that I'm working with, that I think are really interesting here. I'll go in reverse order. One is staying in your lane. And I just had this conversation with another guest. He's a former consultant, and then he flipped careers, wanted to help people, and opened up a wellness facility. It's called Grow Wellness Group. They're kind of all over Chicagoland. Wonderful story, cool story, and everything else. But what was really interesting is we were talking about as he was launching it is because of his consulting background, he knew they had to come up with a strategy, a marketing concept, how to build up the infrastructure, technology, like things that he did in his day job. And he's like, so I hired a consulting company to come in here. And I thought it was just fascinating because so many people, when they make a transition or get involved with something new, they want to cross over and kind of have fun with that. But the staying in the lane and having the experts do the job is such an interesting thing. And I've been exposed to other breweries with investors. I can tell you that is not the case. Anyone who has, you drop $10 into the investment, you're walking in, sampling the beer, giving stuff away or whatever. So
we definitely want to treat the investors, and with the piece of that, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's like, it goes back to the approach of, look, if, you own something 100%, by all means, come in. But this is a big project. Nobody that took on this project, whether it was Tyler, myself, other half, had done something like, this big, 50 million. We were like scrappy kids coming into this thing. And so, but we like that, we wanted, and I think it's like, when you work with partners, there's, you want to let them, if you respect them, you want to let them do their thing. You know what I mean?
It is a cool story because people tend to see something like this, and I teach my kids this phrase, or I talk about this all the time. Out where I live, and it could be some big theater or it could be a Jimmy John's, and the comment is, they put a Jimmy John's in, they put a something in, do you see what they opened up in Bridgeport? And I always tell my kids this, I go, take some time to think about who they is. What actually could, and I'm telling them this because I'm trying to help them understand that they could be those people doing those things. There's always this belief that somebody else is kind of doing this.
I love that you say that.
Which is why I love knowing some of those folks. I'm like, see what I mean? Like, let me tell you what we were doing 20 years ago, But I think that's just kind of an amazing part of these stories, and also the respect that you give, even with Rate and all the other colleagues that you've worked with to accomplish these things. The other thing that I want to highlight, and I have dealt, it sounds like a bad thing, I get these conversations a lot with people who want to transition into a different career.
Yeah.
In fact, when I went from consulting to starting my own thing, I think I'm thinking about starting my own business. What should I do? So and I'm happy to talk to anyone about that. But I also think it's exciting to see that you have an ability to, we're coming back to that phrase we can't remember, rise all boats. But if you look to your community and what's going around you, there's an opportunity to make an impact without jumping ship from what you've been building. And I'm sure you realize this. I think being involved with both does help.
Yeah.
Both, because it kind of adds that credibility. So it's a little bit of a swan song for me to be saying, like, get out there, right? You can make change in your community, and it's at the end of the day, we all have different jobs and different careers, and everyone goes through different emotions with that through different phases in life. And sometimes you think, I wish I was doing it. I said this on our tour. I'm like, man, I wish I was building stuff like that. I can, why not? Just get started. So I love that aspect of your story.
No,
and how it all blends together.
Thank you, Ted. No, and I mean, I think it's one of those things where you have to risk, and you have to take risk, calculate a risk, but you have to take risk, right? And you have to do something fun and impactful. And when you hear people say like, "Hey, you're doing something extraordinary," like sometimes it's like being a part of like a collaborative like this is, and so a lot of people came in, and we're fortunate for the investors that believed in this project. The 50 people that we talked to, like that journey, man. It basically, think about like if you want to go raise money from people, right? Like think about like, okay, how do you go about it? Like who do you talk to? People ask me that. They're like, well, who did you talk to? Like, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't lending for like 20
Jennifer
years.
Hudson wasn't your first phone call.
No. Yeah. So it's like, I was in lending, and so it's like, okay, let me go find people within that industry, but then people that I work with. So it's like you got to have a network of folks that you can tap into that could potentially give you that money, and then you got to go out there and you got to talk to them, and you got to get them to buy into what you're doing, and they got to trust what you're doing. And there is a component of you're taking a risk, they're taking a risk, everyone's coming in, but you're believing in something. And at the end of the day, we all came together and built this awesome thing that is making a huge impact. But like you said, I mean, it's fun to like get out there and actually do it, because you can talk about it all day, but like when you say, okay, let's do it, like you just got to go.
Yeah. And I think also the message there too is about being authentic with your relationships, because I would have to imagine of the 50 investors 50 investors,
50
and 5, 50 investors that came in here, are probably a lot of those relationships that you've built over the years.
Yeah.
And it's not like you've been working them to invest in Ramova, right? Years later. And I think that's also just another important thing to come out in business. A lender talking about calculated risk. Of course, that's but like in my experience working with you on the lending side, again, and just to make that clear, we're talking home mortgages back in the day.
Yeah.
Having that extra piece there, you never know how that's going to play out, and I always think that's cool to then see the other side of that. And this would be a good example of that.
If people are watching this and they're like enjoying the conversation and they're saying, hey, like sometimes I talk to people and I do a lot of talks, and I talk about we put a lot of blocks in our mind about what is and what isn't possible. Right. And we're our biggest, kind of wall to climb, right? And so when I first came in and I was, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're just a mortgage broker, or you're just like, maybe you won't have the ability to be an executive and lead one of the top lenders in the country, and with billions of dollars on the line now, and 7-figure budgets to invest in marketing. But at some point I took the risk and talked to people and said, hey, what do I got to lose, right? Like, let me, if you have a plan, you do need a plan. You need to have you got to have some sort of plan, and you have to be able to articulate that plan and convince people that you can do something. But get out there, do it, take action, and then a lot of times you're figuring it on the go. You're like, I think that the biggest key to success is taking action and then figuring it out. If you wait too long and you're calculating things too much, like, by this point, someone's coming around and they've already done it,
Totally.
failed upwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's I mean that's another one of the things too. Like it's having the plan, taking the drive, but admitting that you don't know all the things.
Right.
Which I think is a Mike Tyson quote. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Love that. Yeah, no, that's very inspirational. So, okay, cool. I can tell the show's starting to brew.
It's about to start.
I don't know if it comes up there. We're in kind of the VIP area. Question I like to ask. So, there's a lot I could ask you. Let's focus on kind of your perspective of the marketing community. What keeps you up at night now? We got Ramova's rocking and rolling,
right?
We got the beer garden opening, made some awesome strides in terms of market share and helping people into homes through rates. What's on your mind? What keeps you up?
But you said being in concerns to the marketing community,
I'm sorry. So whether it's Ramova, right?
Okay.
Let me rewind.
Okay.
A lot of things are going well for Camilo. Right?
Okay.
Right. It's launched, right?
Right.
Ramova's launched. We've got, world-class acts coming in here. We've got an awesome brewery. The beer garden just opened. You've achieved what sounds like a ton of your goals with your vision at rate. So now we kind of look, what's on your mind when you go to sleep with everything going well?
So, I mean, I think it's the pressure of executing and seeing things flourish, right? So you build something, and just because we at rate we've put the infrastructure in place. Now we're in the phase where I was telling you about marketing and doing it, and we're doing marketing that companies haven't done before. And so to actually be effective in digital marketing or TV in multicultural spaces and feel like we've really done it the right way, there's a lot of pressure because we're making a lot of investments.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I really hope that the performance marketing piece works. That the side of actually now we're executing. Basically, I built the go-to-market strategy, but we're now in the market, and so it's like, okay, now we're going to see, is the investment worthwhile for all these dollars that we're putting forward? So I think to some extent we've reached some milestones, but I'm not at a point where I'm saying, okay, the work is done, right? And I don't think to people that are ambitious, the work is ever done.
Correct.
But with the Ramova, we've opened doors and we're booking shows, but that's a long way from paying off our investors, paying off the debt, and being like, okay, we're sitting back collecting checks. That's not, I'm not quitting my day job yet.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think it's one of those things where, there's still components, and, I like the whole thing about keeping me up at night. I try not to focus on things I don't control. I mean, in the lending side, I mean, look, going to war with China or Russia or, there's things like that, are okay, that would throw a torpedo into, the economy, and you're like, okay, well, but I don't control that, right? Yeah. So let's just focus on what we can control. That's kind of the mentality of it. Here at the Ramova, obviously, the economy taking a twist, something like when we were raising money, we raised money through COVID. Right. And that was a challenge. And it was one of the reasons that things took longer than we did. Another type of pandemic, something like that, we don't control that, right? We just got to operate. And, those are the things that I don't lose sleep much about that. One thing I lose sleep on right now is planning my wedding.
Yeah. We'll make sure she hears that.
Yeah. That's I love you. I love you.
No, that's awesome. And also I think it's interesting to, the reminder that it is kind of always moving and growing this in COVID. Looking back, it feels like it'd be easy to say, well, of course, when the doors open again, everyone's going to want to go to venues and do all this stuff. But you really couldn't have predicted that back then. You're building a thing that people might not ever do again at the time. And so that had to be just its own handful of pressures and challenges. But, as I've experienced personally, and what I like to do on the weekends, and what we've seen, we have a lot of, clients in the space, is we call it the IRL experience. It's back. I've been staring at screens for so long. Let me get out. Let me see venues. of course, in the music industry, some of that's
Yeah.
based on how the dynamics have
Dance
changed.
music is back.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is awesome. Yeah, dance music is
Yeah.
back. And hopefully the funk music catches up too.
Right, there you go.
To my area. Awesome. Well, Camilo, thanks so much for the time. Again, really impressive everything that's been built here. And I don't want that to shadow what you've accomplished at Rate. That's truly, you had to get a lot of people to agree with you to spend in that direction, because I know the type of effort that can take, and it sounds like it's starting to pay off for everyone. So it's awesome.
Thank you, Ted, for having me. It's a pleasure to have a conversation, knowing each other for so long. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, thank you.
I think that'll be awesome.
Let's go have a beer.
Yeah, we should. And I think that was the perfect